This segment is on the real state of the Canadian economy. You are not going to want to miss this one. We just heard from Chrystia Freeland talking about the fall economic statement that's going to come out next Monday. Let's watch her announcement, and then I got a ton of items that I want to discuss with you. Don't be fooled.
Yesterday, I announced that the government will table the fall economic statement on Monday, December 16th, in the House of Commons. Our government is focused on building 4 million more homes, making life more affordable, and growing the economy and creating more good-paying jobs. And we're doing this in a fiscally responsible way. Canada's net debt to GDP and deficit to GDP ratios are the lowest in the G7. In next week's fall economic statement, you will see that the government is maintaining its fiscal anchor, specifically reducing the federal debt as a share of the economy over the medium term. I expect that the debt to GDP ratio we projected in the spring budget for the fiscal year 23-24 will be met.
You know why I'm saying don't be fooled? It's because all of our economic growth is coming from our government spending, putting our kids in debt. Canadians are getting absolutely crushed right now. Our Canadian dollar is nearing 23-year low. Our unemployment rate is at an 8-year high outside of Cerveza. And the Bank of Canada is scrambling right now. They're providing these emergency cuts, the biggest cuts since the great financial crisis, and they're going to be providing us an emergency cut tomorrow. Canadians are not spending money into our economy, and our manufacturing is in free fall. It's already in a recession. So what do? They provide us a tax holiday, hoping that we get out of this, what they call a vibe session. We're just not vibing hard enough, so we're not spending any of that hard-earned cash into the economy. They need us to start spending money because the only thing that's propping up our GDP is the out-of-control deficit spending that our government is doing. I want you to think about this. They've spent more money than all governments in Canadian history combined in a short amount of time, $600 billion. So yeah, our GDP has been growing because it's all coming from this record deficit spending propping up our GDP from our government. It's not coming from the private sector, innovation, exports, the real economy. No, it's coming from government dollars. The real economy, which creates jobs and wealth, is crumbling before our very eyes. Here's the thing, our unemployment rate has reached 6.8%. It's increased 1.7% in 18 months. And here's the scary part. We just started. We're in a real GDP per capita recession for the last 2 years. We haven't hit that full-blown recession, and that's where the house of cards falls fast. Chrystia Freeland refuses. She is not going to tell us how many dollars, specific dollars, that their government has spent. She said, don't worry, Canada. We're remaining within the fiscal guardrails that we provided in our generational fairness for every single Canadian. Our GDP, our debt to GDP ratio is exactly where it needs to be. Here's the thing, can we trust any of their GDP numbers? Because we recently heard that they revised not 1, not 2, but 3 years worth of GDP numbers upwards. Let's take a look.
I'd like to point out that yesterday, Stats Can published some upward revisions of Canada's GDP. They revised upward GDP for 21, 22, and 23. That is some welcome data, and it makes me even more optimistic.
What is the actual deficit number? Because she came out and said nothing about that number. She said, don't worry, Canadians. We're within the debt to GDP ratio that we provided. How can we trust the GDP numbers when they're constantly revising them upwards? 3 years worth. This is not just bad math. This is manipulation. This is all smoke and mirrors covering up mismanagement of our deficit. Now let's talk about the real threat to the Canadian economy, tariffs. If we zoom out, on January 20th, Donald Trump is going to be in office. And those tariffs are going to kick in for sure, because what has our government done about our border? Nothing. What they've done is gone after Canadian law-abiding citizens' hunting rifles. Let's add to this that we're currently in a GDP per capita recession. Unemployment is rising, and government spending is creating artificial growth. It's a bleak and grim picture. Let's not forget that when the tariffs kick in, it's not the businesses that are going to be paying for it. It's you and me with higher prices. There's going to be surely a bunch of job losses, and our government is ill-equipped to deal with this catastrophe. So when they tell us that our debt to GDP ratio is on target, it is all manufactured. It is completely meaningless without transparency. The deficit actual number means something. The quality of our GDP growth matters. And right now, almost all of it is fake growth, propped up by our government spending and mismanagement. The private sector is not doing anything right now. We are far from brain dead. We know exactly what's happening right now. Canadians deserve honesty and to hear the actual information from our government. And that is why you are tuning in to my channel, because I speak the truth. I want you to be ahead of the curve so that you do not get financially crushed by our government. Love to hear from you in the comment section. I'm going to be providing lots of updates, and I can't wait to take a look at the fall economic statement for all of you.